Hello, YouTube. My name is Matt, and I'm here to do a workout with you. I love exercise, and lately, sometimes it feels like just about the only thing I can do well. So I figured I would come here and exercise with you, and maybe someday somebody will find it and it will be beneficial. I'm not a personal trainer or anything. I just like exercise, and I figured I'd share it with you guys. So let's get going. I don't have any equipment today. Just got my water. I got a rag. I got a yoga mat, and I got my body, and I got this microphone, and I'm hoping everyone can hear me okay. And let's rock and roll. What do you say? Let's do it. I'm gonna stretch. Oh, go down and do some elephant walks like this. Kind of twist your hips from side to side. Make sure your feet are nice and spread out. That's what I've been doing lately. I feel like I've been wearing shoes my entire life that have been cramping my feet up and like jamming them up into this weird little shape. I got that funky little toe. I'm sure some of you know what I'm talking about. That weird little toe at the end. And I'm like opening my feet up lately. Mm, like spreading my toes out like monkey feet, you know. They're like getting grippier, getting stronger. I'm like trying to strengthen my feet. I got weak feet. I got weak ankles. Oh, I got a lot of weakness in my quads and my hips that I'm working around. I just started my fitness journey almost exactly a year ago. My wife, oh, that feels good. My wife started going to the gym before me and really inspired me after we had our daughter, and she started getting into shape. And oh, and I saw what she was doing, and I'm like, that looks good. I'm gonna try that too. And we've been hitting it ever since, and I've gotten a lot stronger, a lot more flexible, but I've still got a long way to go from where I want to be. But man, I'm improving little bit by little bit every day. That's why we're here, right? It's like the more I do this, the more I realize that it's less about how much you do or what you do and just kind of consistently showing up every day. That's the most difficult part for me sometimes. Oh, I'm kind of twisting my hips open and my chest open and trying to get my elbow all the way down to my foot. I'm nowhere near it, but I'm way better than I used to be. I'm so tight in my hips. I know a lot of men are like this. We're tight asses, us men. We walk around with like a stick up our butt our whole lives and get these tight hamstrings, tight glutes, tight hips, and oh, it feels like I've just started working on these things for the first time in my life. That feels good though. Hmm. These elephant walks are so nice. It's like gets your hammies, gets your hips, gets your lower back. Feels like it gets so much. You can even kind of do that. Here, I'll do the other side so you guys can see better. Almost like you're pulling a bowstring. Oh, like that. Oh, I can see myself in the camera. Yeah, so it's like you keep one leg straight, bend the other leg a little bit, and open your chest up like that. And boy, you can feel it all through that hip, all through that hamstring, and you can even let your arm kind of fall forward and get a lot of that back, your lat. That's just a great stretch. Feels good. I have to constantly remind myself to breathe, check my breath. Get that nice, deep, diaphragmatic breath, you know. Let it sink all the way into your belly. Oh. Hmm. Oh, that feels good. All right. Now we're going to stretch our inner thighs out a little bit. I don't know what this thing is called, but it's kind of like a kung fu, like, you know, come down here like this, and I'm actively still spreading my toes apart and kind of gripping with my toes and my feet and the arch of my foot, using them like I would use my hands, monkey feet, to keep that integrity. And I'm squeezing my glutes, my booty, trying to like prop myself up, keep my spine nice and aligned, so I'm not collapsing down into one hip or the other. And I'm really feeling a nice deep stretch in there. Oh, it feels good. You can sink into it. I find when I do my hands together like that, it really helps me kind of find like a center line where I can align my body, align my muscles. I'm gonna switch over to the other side and pivot my foot just a little bit. My left toes are pointing towards the wall in front of me. My right toes are angled just slightly outwards. And then I sink into that stretch. That feels good. These are difficult for me. Oh. And I'm going to come up and do like a forward fold, hinge at my hips, and just come forward and feel that stretch out my hamstrings, keep my feet nice and strong. And you can kind of play back and forth, almost like you're rocking the boat or something. You can feel it in those hamstrings and your inner thighs. Do a few ankle raises. Just wake up those ankles. I've got a lot of weakness in my ankles, my wrists, that's been there for my whole life, and I'm just kind of now becoming aware of it, it feels like, for the first time. So I'm having to go real slow, be real gentle with myself, which isn't always easy. It's real easy for me to compare myself to others, or look at where I'd like to be and see all the ways that I'm failing to measure up to some standard that I've set for myself. It's real easy for me to do, but I have to remember that, this is where I am today, and that's okay. I've got some goals I'd like to meet, sure, but that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with me. I'm just working with what I've got, taking it one day at a time and little by little, and damn it, we're going to get there, right? One day. So I'm going to spread my feet apart again, get my toes all nice and spread open, grip my mat with my toes, and I like to think about my feet almost like a cat's paw, like an animal paw. It's like a springboard. So my heels are really just there for almost a cue more than anything. I'm not putting any weight on my heels. If I had to, I could come up off my heels at any time while I'm in this stance. All of my weight is, if this is my foot, is right there in the center of my foot, right? Kind of like a springboard. So if there was a point right in the middle of my foot, halfway between my big toe and my little toe, that's like the center point. So I'm trying to squeeze into the outside edges of my feet, and I can sink down and let my ankles kind of hinge and get a nice stretch in my ankles, nice activation in my quads. That's tough. That feels good though. So I'm just kind of warming up and getting some balance, finding a point where if I had to, could I kind of come up on one leg here? This is real difficult for me. You're going to see me shaking all over the place. But this is my weakest area, and this is what we got to do to get stronger. Find your weakness and work with it, right? So I'm sinking down into that point in my foot, and my foot is on fire right now. My arch, my toes, I'm having to work to keep balanced.
And I'm trying to raise my right knee up higher towards my chest, activate that hip flexor in there. I'm going to hold this for just a minute, maybe even extend my leg out just a little bit. Let this loose. Find your balance. And it burns. It's not easy finding your balance. Oh, but by God, we can do it. Balance is a funny thing. I keep coming back to it. It's a weird concept, balance. It's like, to be balanced, you have to almost accept imbalance into your life, because, we're not perfect. None of us are perfect. The world that we live in sure isn't perfect. So there are going to be times of imbalance within ourselves, within our environment, within the people closest to us. And, we can't change other people, but we can do the best we can to embody that balance that we desire in ourselves every day. Oh, that feels good. All right. So I'm just going to kind of wake my quads up here. I'm going to point my toes outwards just a little bit wider than hip width apart maybe. And I'm going to find my center where I'm nice and bouncy. I can come up off my heels if I need to. I can sink down, no problem. I'm like a spring, right? Boingy, boingy, up and down. Just find that bounciness, that center line where you can move up and down nice and evenly. I was going to say easily, but it's not easy for me. I'm going to sink down, and boy, this is where I feel it the most. This is the hardest for me right here. Those quads, those glutes. Whew. Sometimes I feel like an upside down traffic cone, where it's like I got flipped over and I've got this little skinny bottom half and this big upper half, and it's like I want to tip over, like that prison body, I guess. So I'm working on balancing my lower half with my upper half a little bit more effectively. I'm just sinking down nice and slowly, controlling every bit of it, keeping my knees externally rotating, the side of my glutes activated more or less the whole time, finding that nice deep stretch where it's really uncomfortable but not painful. We can push kind of to the edges of pain without it really being actively painful, just working with what you've got, right? That's all we can do. I'm going to speed it up just a little bit. Oh, engage my quads more. Wake those puppies up. I'm going to maybe come up and do a heel raise too on the top end of this. Down and up on the heels. It's all one moving part, right? All these little bits connected, all these muscle groups connected, and they all work together, they all affect each other. So it's about figuring out how to move in your body as gracefully as you can. And as you can see by my shaking, I can't do it very gracefully, but that's why we're here, to work on that. Build it up. Whew. Oh, I'm burning. Oh, I'm going to sink down one more time, and I'm going to stay here. Maybe even come forward and open my knees up just a little bit more and kind of play around down here. I can see myself on the camera. I look silly. I'm just rocking back and forth, but it feels nice. I'm paying really close attention to what's going on in my hip sockets right now. Trying not to collapse into either side, trying to stay bouncy and light on my feet, keep integrity in this line along my spine where I'm activating my hips, activating my glutes, stretching them open actively, not getting lazy with those muscles, because that's where I'm the weakest, in my hips. And it's where I'm the weakest that it's the easiest for me to kind of relax into discomfort and relax into my slumped, postures and positions that I've been standing and sitting in for my entire life. But that's why we're here, to work on that and develop a little bit of strength, a little bit of integrity that wasn't there before. Doesn't have to be a lot. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect, right? But a little bit at a time. That feels good. I'm sweating a little bit. It's working. Okay. Let's stretch out a little bit more. That feels good before we start doing some muscle stuff. Oh, I'm going to sink down and sit. I'm going to keep my knees nice and bent here. My toes are aiming towards my face as best I can manage. And my hinge forward at the hips, keeping my spine, nice and aligned, not crunching over in my spine. And I'm feeling what's going on in those hip flexors. Tight, tight, tight. Tight hammies, tight Achilles. Pointing my toes to my face, generous bend in my knees, sinking forward just a little bit more. Grabbing my feet and using them to pull me forward. Oh, that's good. I feel that in the bottoms of my feet, in my toes, in my ankles, my calves. Boy. Whew. Oh, it feels good though. I'm gonna let that go. Relax it for a second. And let's go right back into it. Grabbing my feet and kind of pulling them towards me. I promise I'll wash my hands before I upload this to YouTube. Oh. Oh, man. I'm going to relax that. Let my feet move around a little bit. And last one, go right back into it. Keeping my knees bent. I don't need to, have them super straight to get a really good stretch. It's all just one big moving body, right? So if the knees are bent, that gives me a little bit of springiness that I can play with and find some other places in my hips and my lower back that I can really work with, really find some stretch. It's all about working with your body, right? Everybody's different. Everybody's got a different body. Everybody's different levels of strength, different levels of endurance, flexibility. So you gotta recognize where you are and just work with that. It's the best you can do. Now I'm gonna come forward and I'm gonna sink back and stretch my quads out here. I'm not very good at this one, so don't laugh at me. I can't go all the way down yet, but I'll get there one day. I gotta prop myself up with my elbows here, see? So I'm just kind of relaxing in my hips and my pelvis. I'm keeping my feet pinned below me and just allowing those quads to really stretch out. Oh, that feels good. I gotta check my breath. Always gotta check my breath. I let my breath rise up into my chest, into my head, instead of settling, anchoring down in my diaphragm, which is where you want it. You want the breath to flow nice and easy. I'm gonna come back up. Oh. I'm gonna touch my toes together, spread my knees nice and wide. Push my hips back with my arms. Oh, and then kind of you can rock those hips side to side, back and forth a little bit. That feels really good. Opens them up. You stretch your arms forward actively, kind of walking your fingertips along the floor or the mat, and breathe into your back. Oh, that's nice. Let me come away from the wall just a little bit here. All right. Now I'm going to go into kind of a half lunge or something. I don't know what you call this, but starting with my feet, like always. Gotta have a good foundation before I do anything else, right? So I'm spreading my toes, gripping with my monkey feet, sweaty monkey feet. These things are working, man. It's tough. It feels like my feet have been aligned wrong for my entire life, and I'm starting to, little bit by little bit, fix them up and turn them into the way a foot is supposed to be. I tell you, man, the shoes we wear are just screwed up. They squish your feet. Now I'm gonna grab my other foot, keep my spine aligned and my chest nice and proud and open, facing forward, standing up tall, while I'm actively but gently pulling my foot up towards my butt and feeling that deep, deep stretch in my hip flexor and my quad. I think that's your IT band along here, but in my other leg, right here. And breathe in deeply. That's the key. That's the hardest part for me most of the time, is remembering to come back to my breath, get it anchored deep, deep down in my diaphragm. Not in my solar plexus, not in my chest, not in my head. It's like checking in with yourself in your internal state. What's going on in my body? Am I in fight or flight right now? Am I letting my breath, get worked up into my chest, or am I relaxed? We can be relaxed and still working hard. You can be relaxed and sweating. You can be relaxed and activating these muscle groups, but still have a quality to your breath that's gentle, easy. That's the hardest part for me sometimes. I'm going to sink just a little bit lower and then let it go with control. And then I'm going to sink deep into that hip flexor. Maybe lift my arms up, get that side body stretch. That feels good. It's difficult, but it feels good. Ooh, now I'm going to roll on my ankle, point my toes up towards my face, keep my knee bent a little bit. I'm just using my hands for stability right here. I'm not really putting much weight on them, but I'm trying to keep my toes actively pointed up towards my face, knee bent a little bit, pulling my left hip back, and then hinging forward at that hip and feeling that deep stretch all through here. It's a good one. Sometimes I even like to go to the side here and kind of brace myself with my hand and then do a very gentle, very slight twist. I'm not forcing a twist, I'm just kind of breathing into my hip and then allowing my exhale to kind of pull me just a little bit further. Trying to keep my toes actively pointed that way too. They want to come, they want to fall forward, but I'm keeping my whole leg rotating internally. I think that's an internal rotation. Oh, that feels good. And then forward for one more. Check in with that hip flexor. Make sure it's still nice and strong, nice and open. Mine's actually super weak, but that's why we're here. And build strength. And let's see about the other side. That's good. So start with the feet. Nice grippy monkey feet. And move a little bit quicker on this one. This side's a little bit, just a tad easier for me. A little bit of imbalance there between the left and right, but that'll get better with time, right? Remember to be gentle. We're not forcing, we're not pulling or yanking that foot up to try and force a stretch, right? It's just gentle. Just gradually, a little bit by little bit, work with it and find that border where it's not painful, it's not hurting anything, but it's definitely not comfortable either. Keeping your chest nice and open, nice and proud. Maybe even moving this arm up. Ooh, there it is. Whew. I'm hoping my breathing isn't super obnoxious for you guys. I got this microphone right on my neck here. But the breathing is important. I forget about it a lot. Alright, so we're gonna toes up to the sky, knee bent just a little bit. Right hip pulled back, and we're hinging forward, just gently, nothing crazy. Doesn't have to be super crazy, just a nice stretch, that's all. And I'm gonna move over here and let my breath lead me into a nice, very small, very gentle twist to the side. Keeping my right toes rotating to my left because they're wanting to splay out to the right naturally because of this position. And we slowly, with control, with softness, come back and sink back into that hip flexor and check in, make sure we're still in a position where we can move into it if we need to. Oh, that feels good. Then we'll do a little bit more. I'm going to come up here in a plank and some downward dog and just stretch out my feet and my hamstrings a little bit more because I'm still feeling kind of tight. I'm spreading my fingers nice and wide and really gripping into the tips of my fingers like I'm trying to like claw my mat here, and then rotate externally with your arms so you're like showing off the pits of your elbows in front of you almost, and then grip in with your toes and send your hips up nice and high, putting the weight, most of your weight, into your back body. You can even kind of pigeon your toes, angle your toes inwards just a little bit, your feet, and that changes that stretch up. I gotta watch my arms, keep that external rotation activated. Oh, that feels good. I'm gonna walk myself inwards just a little bit, make it higher. Oh, that's nice. You can even do little elephant walks here if you want to. And just play around with it. Boy, am I tight in those ankles. My ankles, my Achilles tendons, my calves, everything's so bound up down there. But one day, I'll be doing backflips and climbing trees and who knows what. I'm going to come back to all fours and do just a little bit of wrist stretches here. So I'm spreading my fingertips actively, stacking my wrists under my elbows, under my shoulders, so I can put all my weight on my front body without it straining my wrist. And then I'm just going to hinge forward slightly. Feel that deep, uncomfortable stretch in these wrists. And you can, if you want to, you don't have to use a lot of weight. I'm actually going to come back this way. You can almost do these little push-ups with your palms like this, keeping your knuckles glued to the floor or to the mat and just pressing upwards. And I can't do much weight on it. I've barely got any body weight on that joint right now, but man, it's enough. It's enough to work out that wrist. And stretch it out again. And then we can flip our hands around, rotate them the other way, and do the exact same thing except backwards. So we can kind of peel ourselves backwards and stretch that wrist out, forearm. It's very uncomfortable, but it feels good. And you can kind of do the same thing with these little wrist push-ups if you want to. Just build a little bit of strength and integrity in that joint, in your hands and your wrist. It's all connected. You can almost feel how your pinky fingers are connected to your wrist, connected to your forearm, connected to your elbow, your bicep. It all runs together. And if one piece is weak, you know, what is that? We're only as strong as the weakest link. And that feels true here too, right? That's how we get injured. Now I'm gonna come down on the backs of my hands like this. I can't really put a ton of weight on this. This is pretty tender for me, but little bit by little bit, just work with what you have. It doesn't have to be super impressive or super fancy, and no, mine is not. I'm just stretching what I can and being real ginger with myself. Real gentle. That's a hard thing for me to do sometimes. It's be soft with myself, be forgiving with myself. It's much easier for me to give grace to others than it is to myself. I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but it's a practice all on its own, right? And this is a great opportunity for it, to just check in with your body and not get frustrated with, hey, why can't I do this or do that, or why can't I do, be more flexible this way or move better in that way. And that's not what it's about, man. We're working with what we got and building something better little bit by little bit. It's not going to happen overnight, but we will get there somehow. All right, well, now I think we're going to come up onto our hands like that. Whew, hold this. Oh, that's tough. That is tough. Oh, but that's why we're here, building strength. Hugging my knees to my chest, keeping myself pressed off the ground actively. Oh, I can't hold it for very long. But I'm getting better. My goal is a handstand one day. One day I'll be able to go from there and then up into a handstand. I don't know how. I got no idea how, but one day at a time, I'll figure it out. Okay. Feeling good. Feeling active, like a kung fu master, right? That's why we're here, to learn kung fu or something, I think. All right, I'm gonna come into a horse stance. Find my place where I can use my heels just as a cue and not as support. I'm not crashing into my heels. I'm in that center point of my feet, like an animal paw, springy, bouncy. If I had to, I could jump, just find that point wherever you are, and then kind of sink down to it. Keep your spine aligned, keep your glutes engaged, like you're actively twisting your knees open to open up your pelvis, open up your hips. And then with your weight still going down into that center point in your feet, you just sink down into it and find a place where it's hard for you. This is hard for me. Oh, it's not very much. I can't do very much, but boy, is it tough. I'm pressing my palms together. That seems to help me remember to keep my spine nice and lined up above my glutes. My butt is what's supporting my spine right now. I can start to kind of do these little squats. gotta remember to keep my knees open, my hips, pelvis open, and check my breath. Oh, that's difficult. All right. I'm going to move back into some elephant walks here. I'll turn to the side so you guys can see a little bit better. Oh, that feels good. You can think about twisting your chest open and trying to get your right elbow or your one elbow to the opposite foot. One day I'm going to be there. This elbow be all the way down to the ground. But for now, just past the knee, that's good enough. It feels good enough. Whew. And switch to the other side. Okay. Now I'm gonna do a little bit of core stuff. Let's take a sip of water. What should we do? Let's do, I think these are called dead bugs. You lay down like this, and usually you would use a dumbbell or something, but I'm just gonna use this water bottle. The point is not to have a bunch of weight here, it's just to have some weight to load your abs like this. So I'm gonna kind of snuggle my shoulder blades under my chest, hold this straight up and down, and then let it just fall back to about right here. I don't know, what is that, like 60 degrees? I don't know geometry. But whatever that is, right there. And then I'm gonna keep a space in my lower back, right, so I can fit my hand under my lower back here if I needed to. And then bring my knees up and brace my core, brace my abs like I'm expecting a punch, but I'm still breathing. It's like a side breath, a lateral breath, wide breath. Keep your core engaged and send one leg down. Don't let it rest on the floor. Bring it back up and the other. This is tough for me. But we're building strength. When one leg goes down, I'm actively trying to reach the knee of the other leg up towards my chest. It probably doesn't look like anything's happening, and nothing really is, but it turns on that hip flexor and that side glute so much when I do that. And I'm kind of thinking about externally rotating my foot outwards on the leg that stays up, because it kind of wants to come in, it wants to collapse in. Ooh. Oh, ow. Oh, it burns. It burns so bad. Oh, but we can do more. We've got this. Ooh. Ooh, you see me shaking? Oh, it's tough. Oh, last one. Ooh. Oh. Oh. Oh, those are miserable. Wow. Oh, those are miserable. Let's do more. Let's do leg lifts instead. All right. So keep that space in your lower back. Shoulder blades are underneath you. Your water bottle or your weight or your textbook or whatever at a nice blank degree angle. Maybe somebody who's good at math can help me out with that one. And brace your core like somebody's about to punch you. Check that you can still find that nice wide breath, even with your core braced. And then lift. Oh boy, howdy. Ooh. That is tough. Doing it nice and slowly with control. It's not about going fast. It's not about how many reps I'm doing. It's finding the difficulty, finding my weakness, and working with it. Oh, oh man, that's hard. Oh fuck. Oh, you guys are probably laughing at me right now, but that's tough. Whew. Ooh, especially on my right side. All right. Okay. All right. That's good core stuff. We're probably going to go back to that in a minute. I'm working up a sweat. I bet you guys are probably fine. This is like warm up for most people, but I feel like I've just got such weakness I'm working with, especially my lower body. But one day we'll get there. I'm stronger than I used to be, and I'll be stronger tomorrow than I am today. So as long as we keep doing that, one day we'll be where we want, right? All right. So I'm gonna hop like a bunny rabbit now and kind of work on my ankles and my calves and my feet. So I'm gonna find that bouncy little springboard pad area right there in the center of my foot, like if I was a rabbit or a cat, you know. Think of a cat's leg. They got their back legs that they're kind of like rabbit feet. You know, if you look at them, they're like springy. They just put their weight on the pad, and then they've got that back section that just lets them boink whenever they want, right? So spread your feet, find that bounciness, and then just start hopping. Keep your feet spread and just hop in a way that's comfortable, that doesn't feel like you're crashing down. Just find a way that feels bouncy, that feels light. That's all you need to do. You can play around with it and go a little bit higher if you want, if it feels good. If that feels like it's a little bit too much, you just slow it down. The important part is to do you, right? this is a workout. I don't jump rope very much, so this is making it apparent how much I need to do that more. It's like all the things we do with kids. When we stop doing them as adults, that's when our bodies start to shut down, fall apart, get atrophied, get weak, brittle. You gotta learn how to play again. Learn how to jump around, be silly. Learn how to dance. I'm not a very good dancer, but so I'm working on these monkey feet, right? So we can find a little boogie. And dance, and dance, and dance, and bounce, and bounce, and hop like a bunny rabbit, like a bunny rabbit, like a bunny rabbit. It's tough, it's tough. It ain't easy, but it's fun, and it feels good. It feels good. Oh, I'm getting tired, and my ankles and calves are burning. Oh, but that's good. That means tomorrow they'll be stronger, and I'll be able to hop even higher. 3, 2, 1. Whew, nice. Oh, the arches of my feet are so sore. It's like foot cramps, like a mother effer. I probably shouldn't start cussing. Whew, it feels good though. Oh, oh, that felt nice. I don't know if you guys heard that pop. That was my hip. Oh. Oh, all right. Well, that feels pretty good for now. Oh, we could do more, but I think that's a good stopping place. A nice little workout. I hope you guys liked it. Hope you at least got some entertainment value watching my dumbass jump around. And maybe I'll do this again. Maybe somebody will watch it and get something out of it. It's important. You know, I struggle with mental health stuff so bad sometimes, and I know so many other people do. It's a big thing everywhere, but in this country, especially right now. And you know, this is one of the few things we can do that is just consistently going to be good for that. Good for so many different things. You know, a little bit of exercise doesn't even need to be a lot. Just get outside. I mean, it's nasty, so I'm inside today, but it's raining. But just do something. It doesn't have to be much of anything. Do 5 push-ups. Do a jumping jack. I mean, as long as you show up and do something, that's the most important part. And it's good for you. It helps you, you know, kind of get outside of your head and see things from a different perspective, move around a little bit differently, and realize that, you know, it's not so bad. Things are tough. Life is stressful, but that's life, man. And we can roll with it and find a way to flow with it and move, you know, freely and easily, or we can be stiff and brittle and let it break us. And I think I'd rather stay bouncy and springy. So, if anybody ever watches this, thank you for joining me. I had fun, and maybe I'll do another one and do a little bit more intensity next time. Love you guys.